Hi everyone, welcome back to Fruits Basket podcast. I'm gonna starting off good here. Okay. I'm Kyo Anime and my co-host is Francesca.
Whoa.
And we just like to talk about Fruits Basket, mainly fangirl about it. Season 2 is out, so what's it we're talking about? And so we're gonna talk about episode 17 and 18 this time around.
Mhm.
And yep, so episode 17 was called You Will, I Am Sure of It.
Yep.
And so it starts out with they're actually on their school trip
Mhm.
and in Kyoto. And they're all like they're looking at the I think wasn't it like the beginning like the bamboo forest
Yeah.
or something?
It's so
Yeah.
good. It's like this episode is such a break, and then next episode is just heartache. It's so funny, like having these two paired together,
Yeah.
like polar opposite episodes.
This one's so lighthearted, like compared to other episodes.
Yeah, and then episode 18 is like the most brutal.
Yeah. The very beginning, they're walking through like the bamboo garden. It's really pretty, and Hana's like, "Oh, I want to say a haiku," and like she says a poem, but it's not a haiku, and like Toru does too, and they're like, "Okay."
1992, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah, yeah.
And in English, I know that I mean, in the original Japanese, it would have been something different, but I read about it, and it would not have made sense in English at all, so they had to change it to this.
Oh, okay. So like the opening happens after that. So then they go to the scene where Uo and Hana are talking about how like they're so mad that they can't like eat what they want because they're on a school trip. And they're like, we should come here again, just us girls. And they're like, yeah, we'll get to like eat food. And then they're like, and also witness a murder. And Yuki's like, you watch too much TV. So
I love those two.
So then like Toru talks about how she almost forgot that they were gonna have their school trip. So it like goes to like a flashback of back at Shigure's house, and Yuki's like getting ready to go, and she's like, "Where are you going, Yuki?" And he's just like, "I'm getting ready for the school trip." And both her and Kyo are like, "What?"
Yeah. Share a brain cell.
They're like, "Oh," they both forgot, and so Toru's like, "Oh, Shigure, do you want a souvenir?" And he's like, "No, enjoy your trip." He's like, "Gonna buy yourself a souvenir?" And she's like, "Oh, I have to think about that." Or I think this she went.
I
She
think
says.
she said she wanted figurines, but she didn't say Zodiac figurines.
Yeah, she says figurines. And then Kyo's like, "Oh, this is such a pain." And he says something like, "I want to get old already." And then Shigure is like, smacks him or whatever, and he's like, "Kyo, this is the time for romantic happenings." And
Yeah.
and he's like, so many people will confess to each other their love, and they just like walk away while he's talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah, Shigure being typical Shigure, and they're like, they do not want Toru around this.
Yes. But again, Shigure is also us in a way. Like, yes, go.
Yeah, definitely. Like, oh yeah, we want some romance on this trip.
So it goes back to Toru on the trip, and like there's these boys. They don't have names, but they're always like hanging out. Like usually,
They
like
actually do have
they
names
do.
in the. They never say them, but they got official names on like the wiki.
Ah, cool. I have to look that up.
They didn't before, but once this new adaptation was made, they gave them official names. I forget. I think one of them was like, it began with like H. That's all I remember.
Okay, well
Love them though.
those two students that are always randomly there.
Always they're like Kyo's buddies. They call him Kyon Kyon.
Yeah, Kyo's friends kind of are like, "Oh, look over there. I think that's the first couple." And they're like, "Oh, why can't I get confessed to?" Or I think Uo starts talking about like, "Oh, confessions of love" or something. And then Toru thinks about how she hasn't told Uo about how the Kurino Soma is like her Kurino. So she still hasn't told her that. And she's like, she just doesn't feel it's like the right time, or she can't find the right time. So and Uo's like, what's weird? Why isn't like Prince Yuki not surrounded by girls being confessed to? And he's like, oh, I'm not that popular. and then it shows like Prince Yuki fan club are like surrounding like
Yeah, they're all protecting him.
they're like surrounding the area he's in. He doesn't see them, but like they're like no one
Yeah,
comes next
so
door,
he doesn't
Yuki.
get confessed to. They all secretly want to confess to him.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, but Kyo's really popular. Someone just talked to him now, and then Uo and the two boys are like, what? And they're like, find him. We're gonna go spy on him. Or Yuki's like, oh, should we go this way, Toru? And Toru's like, but what about like Kyo's situation that's going on? and and Yuki's like, don't worry, he won't accept anyway.
That look in Toru's eyes. Ooh.
Yeah. So then we go to Kyo's like confession to him, and it's just like this random girl that like he doesn't even know her name, so he's like really annoyed.
Like really pretty though.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just me, but I don't know. I think it's her hair. I like her hair a lot.
Yeah, she had like blonde hair, kind of.
I think it was the way she parted it. I don't know. I just liked how she looked. I liked her design.
Yeah, she was like telling her, confessing her love, and he's just really annoyed. It's like, I don't know you, and all this, and like, leave me alone. This is annoying. And then they're like, oh man, like that's what spoil as they're like spying on him. They're like, oh man, he's annoyed. I thought he'd be embarrassed. And so he like starts to walk away. She grabs him, like, and he's like, don't touch me, and like smacks her away, kind of,
Yeah.
or smacks her hand away a little. And he starts saying like, why would you even like someone like me? And then his two boys come up and hit Kyo, and they're like, you idiot, you gotta be gentle with girls.
I know.
He's just like, why do I gotta be gentle with someone I don't even like? And they're like, you'll never be popular that way, Kyo. And he's like, I don't want to be popular. And they're like, oh my goodness, if only I could say that.
Yeah.
They,
if only I could be popular so I could say I didn't want to be popular.
Yeah. They cry about that for a while. But then the girl that like confesses to Kyo is like, I see what you're doing to like Uo. And she's like, what? And she's like, you could have just said that you liked Kyo. Like, you're trying to interrupt this. And they're like, and then Kyo and Uo are like, what? No.
Yeah. It's like a comment on all the people who ship Kyo and Uo.
Yes.
It's like, no.
It's like us when we were talking about that once. So like, no. So eventually Toru comes up to Kyo and asks like, what happened? And Kyo's like, oh, it's none of your business. And then Yuki smacks Kyo in the head and is like, idiot. Obviously affected Toru.
Nicer to Toru.
Yeah. And I loved how like after Yuki like hits him in the head and calls him an idiot, Hana's like, yes, that's the correct answer, and she gives him food.
Yeah. He's like, thank you. Say more of a Hana and Yuki duo.
So then Toru's buying her souvenirs, and she's thinking about how Kyo said like it's none of her business, and she said she's like heard that before from a lot of people, but that time it like really hurt her, or she said her heart ached. And then like so she was lost in space about that, and then the lady at the store was like, oh, do you need help? And she's like, oh no, I'm done, and she leaves.
Oh, and she flashed back to and Kyo said that he'd support her if she got a boyfriend, and she said that made her heart ache too.
Yeah, the feels. Yeah, she walks out of the store and everyone's gone. Like she's lost everyone. She's like, oh no. And then she looks over and Kyo's kind of out of the way, like on a bridge. So she's like, oh. She walks over to Kyo. She's like, I found someone. And then he says like he's hanging out over there because there's like a crowd of people and he might like transform or something. He has a cat. Like he's petting a cat. It's like a pretty white kitty.
Yeah. Oh my god, the cat.
This part's hilarious because
manga fans before this were like, are they gonna make the cat talk?
I was so curious about that too.
It's like it's like so out of left field. It's like nothing else in Fruits Basket does something like that. It's like the one and only time. It's so funny and it's just so weird.
Yeah, so like she's like, oh, is that your friend? And Kyo's just like, oh, they just come to me. And then the cat like gets jealous and like slaps Kyo and, and like meows, and there's like translation for her meows of like, I can't believe you're cheating on me, and like I'm gonna go home to mother or something like that. It's
yeah. I think in the manga it's mother, but in this it said hometown.
Whatever. It was like
yeah, either way, it doesn't really matter. It's still so weird.
So even Kyo Kyo's even hot to cats. I don't know. It just it was
I
so.
know. Oh no, I was about to make an inappropriate joke. Never mind.
Oh gosh.
I can't say it. I'm sorry.
So Tori's like, "Oh no, the cat. We should go after it." And then Kyo's like, "No, it came and it left on its own." And he's like, "I can't be nice to everyone." And he starts to like walk away. And then Toru's like thinks to herself, "Will he like let her go like that someday?" So she turns around and grabs his shirt, and then he's like, I love the scene, but anyway, and then so he turns around like
I know, it's so
and
cute.
holds her hand, and he's just like, "What's wrong?" And then like the music plays and the orange zestiness comes in of Kyo.
I know.
And she's like, "Oh," she starts like for a minute it's like all like slow motion, and then she's like, "Oh, I just didn't know where you were going, so I grabbed you." And then he's like, "Oh, I was looking at that," and she looks over and there's some girls eating food, and she's like, "Oh, are you hungry?" And then this whole time they're talking about food, they're still holding hands. I'm just like, ah.
I know. I'm like, oh my god, just kiss.
But then they start talking about where they're what they're gonna eat, and then he's like, "Did you get your Zodiac figurines?" And then she's like, "Whoa, wait, how did you know that I wanted Zodiac figurines?" He's like, "Well, isn't it obvious?" Like,
I know. He knows her so well.
yeah. But then like they start walking, and he's like, "If you're done, you want to just like hang out?" And she's just like, "Sure." And I'm just like, "Date."
I know, they're on a date. They're so cute. Oh man, this episode is so healing.
But then as they're walking away, Toru says how like any small remark from Kyo can make her sad or happy, and she just thinks about how that's like Kyo's really mysterious in that way. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And a lot of manga readers were like, no, it should have said Kyo is special. But that
mm,
was actually a mistranslation on the part of Tokyo Pop. It's kind of like
yeah,
no, in the beach arc where Yuki says one thing but he's not supposed to say it in the manga, but they made him say it, but they changed it but that wasn't like really what he said.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I get why people like special, but in the context it kind of makes sense why she said mysterious.
Okay.
Like I get people being like, "No, special is better." You know what I mean? I get
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, anyway, so that's like the little Kyoto moment. And then we get to more of like Yuki's side of the story. And shows Machi and Nao like didn't want any souvenirs from him. So
Yeah, of
like
course, the difficult student council members.
yeah, so and then he's just like, okay. And then it shows him trying like it shows Yuki like with the boys like and he's trying to wake up but he can't.
Yeah,
And I love that.
relatable Yuki.
I love, yes, that shows great part of Yuki.
Well, like just the not princely side of him.
Yeah, his clumsy side.
He's macho. He is a slob. He can't wake up in the morning.
Yeah, so Kyo comes in, they're like, Kyo, wake him up. And he's just like, no. And you guys wake
Yeah,
him up. Yuki stands up and he like runs into the wall. And they're like, oh no,
yeah.
Yuki. And they're like, your face.
This was the side of Yuki I love. Beautiful face.
And then, so finally, Kakeru comes in the room and he's like, what's going on? And they're like, "Oh, we don't know how to wake up Yuki." And he's just like, "Hello, Yuki." And then he's like, "Okay, you don't have to do this." And he's like, "You're raised like a pampered little girl." And then like Yuki just wakes up and like
Yeah,
pulls on his ear, like.
I know. Oh my god, I love their dynamic so much.
And so yeah, and then it's so funny because all the boys are like, "Yeah, Yuki's awake."
Yeah.
So then they go to like the park where like you feed the deer and stuff. I forget what it's called.
Oh my god, that was so cute where they took a little picture.
Yeah. I've always like if I ever went to Japan, I want to go to that. I'm like, so,
I know. Same. I love that so much.
so like they're all like feeding the deer, and then they're like, so what happened after that, Yuki? And Yuki says that like Kakeru was all like, oh, I'll never speak to you again, like mad.
No.
So then the deer like keep bothering them, and Hana's like, it must be because like we feed them, they're so friendly. And so Hana and Uo look at each other like, feed them. And then like Uo and Hana get down and they try to feed Kyo snacks.
I know, treating him like an animal, which like, I mean, they don't realize how spot on it is, but still.
Yeah. So then Yuki talks to Toru about like if she got her a souvenir, and she's like, "Yeah, all I have left to buy is some paper clay," and he's just like, "What?"
Yeah. What?
But then the bus is or next. I think they said like our bus is here or the bus is coming or something like that, and so they're about to leave. So Toru asks Yuki if he got a souvenir, and of course, like classic Yukis are like, "The only souvenirs I need are good memories," and
I know.
then Toru says that he will have good memories for sure, and he'll keep them. And then Yuki kind of refers to back to and like how Toru's just always been there for him, and she just stands there and smiles for him and comforts him, and you know, so it's like yes, Yuki and Toru relationship's beautiful.
Oh, it's cute. It's so wholesome.
But then Yuki and gets like split up. I guess the group got split up, and so he's just looking at something, and Cocker's like yelling at him across the street, like "Yoon, yeah," and like he's not answering, probably because it's like embarrassing. But and he has like all these bags, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been shopping."
Yeah, getting something for everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and he's like, and then so Yuki still brings up like, "Are you sure I shouldn't get like Machi and Nao some souvenirs?" And Cocker's like, "They didn't want any. Don't get them any." So
Don't spoil your children.
Yeah, don't spoil your children. That's what he said.
Like what? And Yuki's like, huh, my children.
And then so then he sees that like his Yuki's group is split, so he's like, "Do you want to hang out with me?" And Yuki's like, "Sure." So they go sit down somewhere like on a bench, and then Kakeru brings up how he's in a group with Toru, and then Yuki's like, do you care? Like, what do you care about Toru so much? You always ask about her.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. And so Kakeru is like, "Oh, I like her." And he goes like, "What if I said that?" Because
Yeah.
that's when Yuki's like, "Well, I have no right to interfere with that. Like, if you like her and she likes you, it's up to her."
You know what that reminds me of? I'm sorry for interrupting. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. You know Stacy?
Yeah.
She was like, there was like a point where she was like shipping Kakeru and Toru. It's like, no, never. Because like, Toru would not understand his humor. He'd be making jokes all day and she'd think he was serious or something. She'd be so confused the whole time. Like, how could you ship her with it? She would just be like, huh?
True.
Yeah, just like him saying, what if I like Toru? I'm like, oh my god, Stacy is gonna be like, ooh. Sorry for getting off topic.
No, it's fine. That's a new ship. Yes.
Oh.
Like, I mean, ship who you want. I don't.
Yeah, true. I'm just joking. I don't care if somebody actually ships them. I'm just gonna be like, no.
So, but yeah, going back to like Yuki saying like it's up to her if she likes you or not. Then Kakeru asks like, "What if I?" Or no, wait, I know Yuki says, "But if you like date her as a joke or you're just like playing around, then he'll have to like react the way he sees fit."
Yeah. He's like, I'll beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, pretty much. And if you did that, he like wouldn't be able to like, or if he said like, if you hurt her, I would never be able to forgive you, kind of sense.
And he thinks about Kyo.
Yeah, then it shows Kyo.
It's like if Kyo hurts Toru, he won't be able to forgive Kyo.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Well, what did you do?" And then that actually happened, and then Yuki's like, "Oh, then we're not friends." And like he gets embarrassed about it because he's like, "Wait, only little kid would say that." Like,
I know. It's Kakeru, so
yeah. Kakeru, it works though, because Kakeru is like, "What? We can't be friends."
Come on, Yuki, don't say that.
And then like he starts talking about like, we haven't even talked about the pros and cons of like dirty videos and like
Real.
Kimi comes in right then, perfect timing.
She's like, what are you guys talking about? Dirty stuff?
Yeah.
And then Kakeru, Yuki said he won't be my friend if I don't show him my dirty videos. Oh man, I love it so much.
Kimi's just like, oh, I'll show you all of me, Yoon, or something like that. I'll show it all to you.
Yeah.
And then Yuki's like, no, let's get off this subject, please.
Or my favorite is Kakeru's like, oh, how about me? And she goes into her deep voice and is like, shut it. Don't you love your girlfriend?
Yeah, and then Yuki's like, you have a girlfriend? So we find out that Kakeru has a girlfriend, so... and then Kimi and Kakeru are kind of insulting each other for a while, a little bit.
Yeah. Throwing shade as they were.
Yeah. And while they're doing that, Yuki thinks about how, like, it's, like, even though he was, like, embarrassed to say, like, I'm not gonna be your friend, he was like, that part of me was, you know, still a good thing. Like, he started to, like, accept his, like, silliness, you know, like, I don't know how to explain that, but, like...
Yeah, no, I agree. It was really sweet.
And then we get the best transition in all of anime.
I know, for real, that was fire.
Like, he reaches up to the sky and brings down a leaf, and it comes in front of Machi. And everybody was like, oh!
Yeah, for real. I was like, yo. Oh, man, I love that.
He gives the leaf to Machi as a souvenir, and then he's like, do you want to know? And he's like, no. So...
Yeah, I love seeing Machi, like, hold up the leaf and, like, look at it. Like, I love her. She's one of my favorites. I just love seeing her.
Yeah, she, like, holds it up in the air to look at it. It's really cute.
Yeah.
But at the very, very end, we have Toru, and she's working on something, you can't really see what, and Kyo comes to her door, and he's like, why are you still in your uniform? Like, you haven't changed yet? And she's like, oh, I was absorbed in something. And he's like, what? And he looks over, and, like, there's all the figurines, like the Zodiac ones, and she made a cat one. And I'm like, oh, it's so cute.
No, it's so wholesome.
And then, of course, like, Kyo blushes, because it's like, oh. And then I liked Yuki had, like, a line of, like, add color and they will shine. And the whole, you know, how Yuki's always been, like, in the dark and the grays, and then add color, and it's like...
Yeah. That's such a wholesome episode. I love it. And then, episode 18.
Yeah. But, this episode I loved a lot. 17, it was, like, really funny, and, again, good break. Nice moments. So...
Calm before the storm.
So now we get to go to episode 18, which is, like, the title is nice. It says, do you want to kiss?
Yeah.
I was like, ooh.
It doesn't really represent the whole episode, I mean.
But, yeah, this one, my title for this is oof.
Yeah, basically. That's why I said episode 17, the calm before the storm.
Exactly. But we do get to start out with my brat of a son. Not really, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But Hiro and Kisa, so, and they're walking home, and Kisa's asking Hiro about if it's baby sister or brother, and she's, like, asking, like, do you know if it's gonna be a boy or girl? And he's like, no, as long as it's healthy. And she's like, the baby's not healthy? And he's like, no, my mom's just a huge klutz.
Yeah, and the like frame of her falling and the dad like running to like towards her, it was so cute looking.
Yeah. And then as he's like explaining this, his mom comes around the corner and it's like, oh hi, and she's running up, and he's like, Mom, don't run.
I know. Oh, I love her. I love their relationship so much. It's so cute.
Yeah, and then we do see like Rin start to walk by. Or I'm gonna try to say Reen. Okay, I know you don't care, but I'll care.
Yeah, I say Rin. I mean, listen, you say Reen to appease the people. I will say Rin. I don't care.
Okay. But Reen walks by. Then Kisa asks like, why haven't they found out if it's boy or girl? And Hiro's mom, being like the angel she is like, well, I'm gonna love that baby anyway. It doesn't matter. I love the part where Hiro's mom's like, it'll be just like you, Hiro, so kind. And Hiro's like, I don't think I'm kind.
Yeah, Hiro's very self-aware.
And then Hiro's mom's like, don't you think he'd make a great husband, Kisa?
Yeah.
Poor Hero gets embarrassed. But then Hero sees Rin, and so he's like, you guys go ahead, and he like walks up to or runs up to Rin, and she looks like really tired. So he's like, "Are you okay?" And he keeps like asking her like questions, like, "Have you ate? Are you tired? Like, what's?" And so eventually she stops, and he's like, and she just asks him like, "Why are you so concerned with me?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and then she says, "Because is it because you were there and you saw that?" And we'll talk about effects about what he saw, but later.
Oh, you know what I kind of like?
What?
But I kind of like how Hero has a connection with Green, like she's kind of like an older sister type.
Yes.
And then it's also Kisa has a connection with Haru, he's like an older brother to her.
Yep. I agree completely.
They're like a duo.
But she like says to go back to his happy family and be loved. And Hero's like, "Are you blaming me?" Like, and he says the way she makes it sound like it's wrong to be loved by your family or your parents. But anyway, she just walks away, and then Hero's like, "Shigure didn't know, right?" And then he's like, she doesn't answer, and he's like, "Yep, there's no way to break the curse, is there?" And it's like sad, but
I know.
I like how Hero. I don't know. I was like, I know it's a little scene, but Hero's like we've talked before. He's actually pretty mature, even though he's a brat.
Yeah, he's super smart and perceptive
Yeah,
for the most part, and I like Hero a lot.
yeah. Anyway, so then we get a little bit of we finally get to hear what Shigure and Rin were talking about, like on that mysterious scene that no one knew.
More than 10 episodes ago.
Yeah. So she asks Shigure like how to break the curse, and Shigure is just like, "Why do you think I know?" And she's like, "Well, you're one of Akito's favorites."
He's like, "Huh."
Yeah. Like Rin's even like saying like she'll like sell herself to him, like if he knows, like.
I was like, "Oh no, Rin, no."
Yeah, and
Rin, you're like 10 years younger than this man. Please stop.
So Shigure is just, and then Shigure says, "Oh, you do all that for Haru, wouldn't you?" And
Akito doesn't trust him as much as she thinks, and she's like, "You're lying."
And then he goes into his speech about how he's the worst kind of man, and like really bad guy, that kind of speech.
Yeah, the classic Shigure speech.
Yes, the evil Shigure side.
I'm the worst.
And but eventually he says, "Why don't you just ask Akito?" And then Rin asks him if he's fine being cursed. And then he just answers with like, "Oh, I'll let people that care do my dirty work." So he kind of like avoids the question, is what she notices. So then she like goes, I don't really know where she's searching, but she's like searching for documents. Where it is.
Yeah, like maybe some like history of the curse, I'm guessing. I think she's just in like a Soma warehouse.
Yeah.
Or maybe her own home. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. And she's just like searching, and then she like feels like nausea come over her. And
can I just mention this is my favorite Rin outfit? I'm sorry. Maybe not the moment to comment on her fashion when it's like crazy, but like I love this outfit.
Yeah. I know people have talked about her fashion a lot. Again, kind of it like makes you think of Haru in a way, so like it works.
And like they don't mention this in the episode, but it's mentioned in the manga or like in the side panel things that Rin started dressing that way, as a rebellion against her parents. Like, because they would dress up like all girly and frilly. Then Haru started dressing that way so that he could like match Rin.
Yeah.
And like he makes all their jewelry and stuff.
Yep.
I like that they added reference to the fact that he makes their jewelry by having like in his episode having the jewelry stand thing in his room where he was with like tools and stuff. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah, I remember people were like pointing that out that episode.
Yeah. Look, the thing they said in the manga.
So after she like gets sick, she like faints. Then we have like a random flashback of like Haru and Rin, and people were like, "What?" when they saw the scene, but because you're naked in bed, so
yeah. I mean, I mean, that's what teenagers do, man. I'm just
Yeah,
very realistic.
they done did it.
Yeah, they did the deed.
Yeah. And but Reen's like, she says how she wishes that she was like Haru's heart, and he's like, but then we
Yeah.
can't like kiss. He says, and
He says, "And do other things."
yeah, no.
And then he's like, "Okay." Now he just makes out with her. I'm like, "Oh, hard." It's like being so like poetic, and he's like, "Okay, let's kiss."
Yeah. But then like she wakes up, or it's kind of more. I don't know if it's a flash. I think it was a flashback slash dream. I don't know, because then she starts seeing like someone saying like I don't want you, and then she wakes
Mhm.
up
Well, it's
and
definitely like PTSD flashbacks, I think.
yeah, and she's like confused if she's awake or not. She thinks she might still be dreaming as she's like walking, and then she sees Akito with Haru. She's like, ugh, that stinks.
Yeah, I'm like same girl, same. I hate that. I hate to see it.
So then she's like, I gotta go to Shigure's house. So she like walks all the way to Shigure's house. No one's home. So she falls sick. She feels sick again, and she falls down. And then Toru finds her. And this scene was done really, really well. I was like, well, like as she sees Toru, she like starts to like think of her mom, and
Yeah.
so she keeps like she backs away from Toru and is like so scared, and she keeps saying like, "Stop! Don't yell at me."
Yeah. It's so I feel so bad.
That scene was like heartbreaking. Like, oh,
No.
and like that wasn't like that was really well done because like in the manga they didn't really show her like too much like of her like flipping out like that. So or having that.
Well,
So
they had the panel for it, but I think it's just so different seeing it
yeah,
animated.
yeah, it's just I don't know. It was like even more powerful.
Yeah, like
Um,
I love these chapters in the manga, but I think even animated, I think it made it even better. Like this, I think this is my new favorite episode, possibly.
to me, like okay, I always thought either this or Hana are like the saddest stories. I don't know which one. They're
Yeah.
both
But
pretty
I think
sad, but
that
like
this one personally, because Hana at least had her family, but
yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, at least Hana had like really nice parents. It was like
yeah.
I don't.
Rin was like so with Hana, I think that it's hard to compare them, because they're both so sad.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
Rin, I feel like is worse just because Hana was bullied, yeah, and she was physically bullied a few times. Like we saw the few times that she was physically bullied, right? But
mhm.
Rin was like abused. She was like physically
Yeah,
abused, mentally abused. She wasn't fed properly. They don't say this in the anime, I don't think, but she doesn't eat because she has stomach ulcers from being starved before.
yeah, yeah. That's why I figured I was like like after I thought about it, I was like, yeah, Rings is probably a lot. It's more dramatic than Hana, but then I thought how it's kind of like opposites for them because Hana like her friends or her the people that like didn't live with her were mean, and then with Reen, it's like people that did live with her were mean, but her friends were helping her, like like
Yeah,
Haru, and so
yeah. I think that there. I mean, I think that it's hard to compare backstories too because like they're also Yuki was locked in a room his whole life. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
hard. It's so hard to compare
Yeah,
backstories.
yeah, I know. Like they all have sad pasts. It's kind of hard to compare, but probably
Yeah.
shouldn't. But
No, no, it's fine. I mean, if these were real people, it would be weird, but they're characters. It's okay to be like,
that's
who has the
true.
worst?
Uh,
God, fruits basket, but it's real people, and we're talking about it like,
oh,
oh no, I think they're kicked.
okay, dude. Let's see. So then we finally get like uh Reen's backstory better, and it talks about how her family was always so happy, and they're always smiling, and
When we saw Flash with somebody, so
yeah,
with long black hair, saying, "Isn't your family so great?" We don't know who
yeah,
that is yet. I mean, we
yes,
know,
we know.
but we know, but we don't know.
But yeah, so she's like, the family's so happy. So one day, like, she just asked her family, like, or her mom and dad, like, why are you guys really always so happy? Like, or like, like, how are you always so happy? Like, just innocently ask that, and that's when like her mom like goes crazy and like spills the food all over the place, and that's like, and then she referenced to like the how her family was like a play.
Yeah, it was all like a facade.
Yeah, and then the play ended after she asked that question, and then I like the whole doll concept too. That was pretty cool.
I think that, it's like a good visual metaphor, especially whenever like he grabs her and then the doll is ripped on the ground. It's like a good visual metaphor,
Yeah.
like her getting like abused without having to show it. Because they were very tasteful about it. They didn't want to show a kid getting abused, obviously.
And yeah, and also like how the doll was like watching them on stage was another thing.
Yeah.
So to the play reference. But while this is like being told, we do cut to a scene where Tori is just like holding on to her as she's like being like, because Tori scared her because she's having these memories come back to her.
Like flashback.
Yeah, and then we get where it shows her like trying to walk home and she like can't because she's too scared. So
Yeah.
she faints in the street, and let alone Haru comes along and he's like, "Oh, good, you're still conscious."
Yeah, he's so calm about it. I'm like, whoa, Haru.
And so he gets Kazuma to come help. Then she was like, "Oh yeah, Haru," and like apparently like they were friends like before the whole family thing happened. They used to play together and everything. So she wakes up in the hospital and Kazuma's there. She's like, "Oh no, I need to go back home." And Kazuma's like, "No, your parents need to come and explain their actions." And that makes her like want to go home even more. She's like, "No, it's my fault." Like,
Because they said that she had a bunch of injuries that were usually unseen on her body, and I'm like, oh no.
yeah. But she keeps saying like it's her fault, like shouldn't be her parents' fault because she's just scared most likely. And but anyway, so her parents then are at the door and they're like, "It's okay, don't come home again." And they're,
No.
and this is like the hardest part, yeah. And they just tell her like they don't want her anymore and
Yeah.
leave her. And then that's when Haru like gets angry for her and pretty much tells like what everybody else is saying, like, "How could you say that?" And like
Yeah.
apologize to her, and like they don't, of course, just walk away. And but Rin says like she's crying and like she's like, "Thank you, Haru," and I'm like, it's just like, and then Haru's crying and everyone's crying. Okay.
No, I'm crying. She's crying.
But then after that, that's why she started living at Kagura's house. She wouldn't really feel like eating with them, she said, because like it would there was an unbroken family, so it felt weird to like eat with them. But she's having like really dark thoughts, and as she's thinking these, of course, here comes Haru again. He's like, "You want to go for a walk?" And so she just started hanging out with Haru a lot, and shows them in middle school, and she's like asking him how's middle school, and he's like, "Oh, no one likes my hair or my attitude, so I'm gonna get more piercings."
Yeah, it's just like your logic is so funny.
Yeah, she likes his logic, and that's when she's like, "Oh, I might fall in love with him." And then it shows them, I guess, high school is when they
Yeah.
started dating.
Yeah, I think that I guess is around like it's just my guess, but I'm guessing when he was like 15 and she was like 17, so like for a year maybe they've been dating.
Yeah,
But that's just like my guess. I don't know.
that makes sense. But anyway, and that's when he just like says, "Do you want to kiss?" And she's like, "Why?" And then he's like, "I love you," and it's just like straightforward Haru.
Yeah,
Boom.
straightforward Haru. Oh my gosh, what a guy.
And she's like, "Akito get mad." He's like, "Well, do you like want to go to some other guy?" And she's like, "No." And yeah, so they start dating. And then the thing is, as they started, she was like worried that she would lean on him too much and like,
It's very relatable for me too.
yeah.
Feeling like, oh no, I'm even like, her thoughts of like, oh, I'm being a burden,
hmm
I'm relying too much on this person. But like you don't realize that they want to help you,
Yeah, but she starts like thinking about how like she could crush him with like how much she loves him, or like like that's what she said pretty much. But then we get the scene where Akito is there, and everyone's like, "No!"
No, it's like, oh no, God, no.
When you see Akito, it's not good. Akito is like, "Oh, so I heard you're dating Haru now." Akito says, like, "When you want something, I know you really like go for it."
I know. It's like, like, I hate women. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Women hate you too, Akito.
yeah, and Rin even says like that she's scared of Akito. That obviously she can't do anything because Akito is like God. So then Akito asks like who was like the first to seduce who, and then like Akito like says like, "Oh, remember what I did to Hattori's eye?" Like as a threat, and like
I know.
like you didn't need to bring that up. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, for real. I don't want to think about that right now, Akito.
Yeah. So of course, Rin like lies to protect Haru and says it was her. And then Akito goes on a rampage about like, oh, again, kind of like how unsightly you are, and you're no good, and
And like saying all the things that she already thinks about herself.
yeah, and you're worthless and all this stuff. And then finally like says the same thing that her dad said, that I don't want you. And then the scene like we all been dreading like pushes her off of like I don't know how many floors it is.
Like 3, I think, or something. I don't know.
Probably 3, yeah.
Crazy.
Because it had to do enough damage, so like probably 3. And Hero's there.
I was actually very proud of myself. Because you know how they didn't show this in the manga, they just talked about it?
Mm-hmm.
A few months ago, I was like, I made a tweet. I was like, hey guys, you know how they made the true form arc like way more intense in the anime? And I was like, are they gonna show Rin falling off, like getting pushed? I made that months ago, and now I'm so happy. I'm like, I mean, I'm sad that I had to see it, but I'm happy I was right.
Yeah. No, they show it. And yeah, and Hero saw it, like, and so that's what she's referencing at the very beginning of the episode when she's like, well, you saw it. And so he was just there, and it happened, which
Hero, he's probably traumatized.
I know, right?
He's like a little lad, and he had to see that.
Yeah. But then as she's falling, she does say like, Baharu wanted me, and like it's kind of like she's falling in slow motion, and she's like saying how she'll free him from her and Akito, and that she just wants Haru to find happiness.
I'm glad that it's this scene, because like she's talking about, like, she doesn't think she's gonna die, I guess, because she's saying
Yeah.
she's gonna free him from the curse. But I like that it's now that she has this realization, because it's like, okay, well, Akito just pushed me off off a building. Now I know how crazy it is, and I have to save Haru. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like, I guess before she was like, we can just kind of sneak by, and now this is happening. She's like, well, crap, I guess I gotta break the curse because I don't want this happening to Haru.
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, the way like when she's falling, it's like I know like she doesn't die because then like the very end it shows like obviously we see her, so she's like in Toru's bed.
And yeah,
but like the way it happened, it felt like she was gonna die, but like we know she's not dead.
No, it was, oh my gosh, it was so sad.
It was so like intense, crazy.
Yeah, if any of you listeners watch Breathy, his reaction to this was so good. It was so like raw and emotional. I was right there with him crying,
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that episode was like really intense, but like really good because of that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It's hard because it's so fresh in my mind, I guess, still. I'm like, it's my favorite episode, and I'm like, is it, or am I just excited about it? And gotta do a ranker someday. I'm gonna rank all my favorite episodes or something.
Yeah. That's gonna be hard for me.
Oh my gosh, same.
Thanks guys so much for watching or listening, whatever, to our podcast. And hope to see you next time. Bye.
All right, so did you have anything else you want to like? Oh wait, I think I have one spoiler to say.
Do you have a spoiler?
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Alright, so, any listeners, if you don't wanna be spoiled on stuff that happens in the manga, yeah, click off now, bye. Uh, I guess the one like, they left out one part from episode 17.
Mhm.
I believe it was, Hana saw Kakaru, and she's like, I saw you with him before, Toru." And Toru's like, "What? I don't remember that."
Oh.
And
I
so
don't.
it's a hint about, Kakaru and Toru's connection, just like how they had Yuki be like, "Why are you always asking about Toru?" Hinted at their
Oh.
connection in the manga, but they didn't do it in the anime.
Oh wow. I don't remember that bad. Cool.
I didn't remember it either, so I saw somebody talk about it on Twitter, and I was like, "Wait, oh yeah," and I looked in the manga, and I was like, "Oh, there it is. They left it out though."
Didn't they leave out, like, I didn't look it up, but I saw on Twitter where, like, Toru dropped the picture of her mom? Or not?
Wait, and I don't know. Maybe I don't remember the chapter very well.
I'd have to look it up. But someone said, like, when she ran after Kyo and grabbed him, like, she dropped her picture.
Oh, you might be right, but I don't remember.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up because I still haven't. I saw that. I saw that as that could have happened, but I'd have to actually read the manga.
Like a metaphor for how Kyo's taking over the spot in her heart for like the most important person.
Yeah. Don't take my word for that, but it was something I thought about saying, and then I like just was like, I can say that to the end, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I do that sometimes too.
Oh, okay.
What was it?
It's not a spoiler, it's just something really stupid and like really bad.
What was it? I'm curious now.
I don't know, I might not put this in the podcast, but
okay, go ahead.
I like to like listen to songs and like try to find like A and B songs for Fruits Basket, or like I'll listen to songs and like relate them to characters. And so I was like trying to find one for like Haru and Rin, and but I was like, maybe I should do one like about like when they broke up and stuff. And I was trying to find one. I don't know if you know. I don't even know what the song's called, but the song it's like da 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 da, da have gone out the window. That one.
Oh my god! Yes.
And I was like, no. And it works because it's like about breaking up.
Wait, I'm trying to figure out how it goes. Have gone out the window.
Yeah, you know that song? It's like...
Yeah, but I can't think of the rest of it now.
But I was like, oh, she went out the window. I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, no!
It's so bad. But, like, the rest of the song, it was, like, about breaking up and stuff. So I was like, it makes sense. That's my bad humor. Anyway.
No, it's so good. I mean, the joke I was gonna make about Kyo was that he's, like, a pussy slayer because of the cat. Like, he gets a lot of pussy. And then I was like, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Thanks, guys, so much for watching or listening, whatever, to our podcast. And hope to see you next time. Bye.